I want to talk a little bit about prescription labeling. The Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, the FDC, has made certain things mandatory by law to be found on a prescription label. And I want to go over those mandatory things, and then after doing that, we'll talk about some additional things that are often found on prescription labels but are not required by law to be there. So the following things are required by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act to appear on all prescription labels. So we begin with number one, the name and address of the pharmacy that is filling the prescription. So the name and address of the pharmacy must appear on the label of the prescription. The second thing that must appear by law on the prescription label is the prescription number. So we've got the name and address of the pharmacy filling it, the prescription number, and then the next thing, the date that the prescription was filled. So we know when the prescription began in terms of the date it was filled, and then also within that, the end date for refills, meaning you cannot get refills of this medication or this prescription after this date. So all refills must be done prior to this end date. Next, we need the name of the person who wrote the prescription. The prescriber's name has to appear on the label by law. Along with that, we need the name of the patient, and then instructions for how to use the medication. And here it may say how often it needs to be taken, how much should be taken, things like this. So who's filling it, the prescription number, the date it was filled, the end date after which you can no longer get refills, the name of the person who wrote the prescription, the patient's name, instructions for proper use of the medication, and then contraindications and precautions related to the medication, meaning don't take with this other kind of medication because of possible interactions. Make sure you take it with food, or don't take it with milk. Things like this that might either neutralize the medication so that you don't get the good benefit out of it, or might cause a dangerous interaction or reaction because of what you're taking it with. And so you have to have these warnings along with proper instructions and all this other information by law required to be on prescription labels. Now, other things that you might find often on prescription labels but not required by law include the following: the patient's address, the pharmacy phone number, make it easy to call back for a refill, ask questions, the expiration date of the medication, meaning by this point the medicine in it's become inert, there's no point in taking it after this, or perhaps it becomes dangerous after this date. So the expiration date of the medication, the number of refills that are remaining. They're not required to include that, but they often do. There's 2 more refills left with this, and then of course they would have the end date for refills on there by law. And then the quantity of the medication dispensed. So there's 300 pills in this particular bottle, something like that. So the following 5 things are not required by law, but are often found on prescription labels: quantity of the medication, number of refills remaining, expiration date of the medication, the pharmacy phone number, and the patient's address. So be familiar then with the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and also know this list of required information that must appear legally and lawfully on prescription labels.